Hey guys, my name is Mohammed Shoaib, and you're listening to Just Baatein.
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Just Bate. And finally, we have a podcast. I know it's been a while coming, but yeah, we have a podcast today. A very lovely guest with us. But before that, Ashwin, what is up? How's everything going? And how was your morning?
It's going good, dude. My morning was horrible. I slept quite late, woke up quite early. But the only thing I've been looking forward to in this whole day is this recording, and that's because of our guest. Like Pratip said, we finally have a podcast. It's been, I think, 2 weeks since we released one. I'll give you a backstory before I introduce the guest. Pratip and I essentially have two passions. Pratip loves his coding, I love my writing, and we love our cricket. You guys know we release our cricket episodes every Wednesday. So go check that out. This guest of ours is a prime example, and also why we wanted to talk to him, because in the country we live in, or even the world we live in, we are taught that you can only have one passion and you need to only follow one thing to make it big, or to earn money, or to live, whatever. This guest of ours is someone who has two passions, two quite polar opposite passions. One is football, and his profession, which is pilot. He flies. So that's football and a pilot. Again, two completely opposite things, but he pursues it. He does a lot of things in both the field. And yeah, he is a very special guest of ours, Captain Mohammed Shoaib. We're so glad to have you. We usually ask the guest, how are you doing? But we always get generic answers. But like Pratib asked me, what time did you wake up and how was your morning?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Firstly, I like the energy. Firstly, it's it's radiating right out of both of you guys.
That's great.
Yeah, had a good start to the morning. Had a light fitness jog. Went around. It's been a little low with the lockdown and stuff, so got a good 4 5 kilometers in under the belt. A quick cheat meal to follow up, and yeah, quick start of the day like that because tomorrow would be an off day. So yeah,
Right.
all in all, good start to the day.
A cheat meal is always a good start to the day. I mean, nothing beats that.
Now, continuing with sort of a light question, could you tell us a little bit about football, how you got into football? Because I think, especially in our country, it's more easy, I think, to get into cricket because it's something that's played everywhere, and football, not so much. So, can you tell us how you fell in love with the game and maybe your favorite players?
Yeah, so Pratip, this started back in, I think, when I was in third grade or second grade. So basically, my whole family is into sports. It's in our blood. So all of them
Yeah,
playing, dad, sister, aunt, uncles, they're all into sports, varying from football, volleyball, basketball. So cricket hasn't been in our blood ever since in the start. So, I mean, so it's not predominantly that, but yeah,
Right.
everybody is into sports in specific. So that just kind of flowed into us, and we were all encouraged to take up. So back in that days, I started playing football. Dad was playing football, so I started playing football and used to attend camps, and then started playing for school. But we were studying in ICSE. We didn't have that much push to play for districts and states. I think you guys are relating. So back in eighth, ninth grade, where I was like looking to go for some trainings in England, but that didn't work out. I mean, I was doing well in Bangalore circuit, like getting good chances to play in schools, through sports quota and stuff.
Right.
But it didn't take. I mean, you know how it was back then, just too
Yeah.
much into education. So yeah, that was the thing. So I had to, keep it aside. But I was still playing. Then I went on to play for college. Played for Christ College. Went played there. Then after that, after Christ, so somewhere towards the end of Christ, we there was a club. I joined that. I started playing that, and then so it was like club football was going on. Then engineering, I joined engineering. So it's gone on and on. It never stopped. I luckily got to play in the leagues. I mean, not higher division, but decent enough third divisions, just to keep myself going. Apart from that, college football was there. So it was kind of something that was ingrained in us and something that we love to do. So it was like that. And then around 2011, I think dad is in the football fraternity for a while, so he started his own club.
Okay.
So just to
Wow, that
promote
is
footballers, young footballers. So we still run it. So that's where then I started playing for that, and then we grew, and now we're like
okay.
10 years strong. And then now
Wow,
I'm more
that's really
into
nice.
the operation side of things now,
Right.
handling the operations. But yeah, I do play in the weekends.
That's when you realize you're an adult, when you're in the operation side of things more than playing. And your path is almost similar to Pratap because he was an ICSE student who loved cricket but
Okay.
couldn't pursue it,
Yeah.
and then now he's doing engineering. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, going from one passion of yours to the next, I want to ask you, because being a pilot and flying in general is not something a lot of people think of. The only time you can even think of is looking at the plane above you flying, or if you're in a plane, and that's when you think of, oh, I want to do this. So, how did
Right.
you get into the idea of I want to get into the aviation field? I want to become a pilot. I love flying and all that.
This was I mean, this has been a childhood dream. Like we used to visit some of our relatives abroad. So there was this thing where we used to fly in the aircraft, and this fascinated me. So it's been a childhood dream, if I can say. And ever since that, there was only two things revolving: to become a footballer or become a pilot. It was just two things, but I knew both couldn't go in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a while to sort things out, and then but if there was this one phase when this is back in when I was touching 10th grade. So I had to take a call, but I also knew that what are the requirements I need to,
Right.
pursue my passion or my dream. Like, it was a big call. So that time when I was in 10th grade, we had a discussion where, it was not feasible for me to take up football as a career.
Mhm.
Back then, sports was not growing that much, and so I had to take the call. And I was like, it was already getting late. I was 16, and you know how early you need to start as a
Yeah.
sportsman. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, let's keep that aside and keep that something that will keep me happy. So that's when I worked hard. Like we've in India, we're supposed to know physics and math well, the so-called physics and math well, to be a pilot. But it's just a big myth which I will clear later in the podcast. But yeah, so that was one thing. But so I just studied hard, and then from then on, science had to be the go-to, because that was the thing. But
Yeah.
at home, they never thought that I was serious into it, which was something which they realized when I was touching the end of engineering. But yeah, I worked towards it, and even after 12th, we had a discussion where I was like, let me go for it, because the requirement is just 18 years.
Right.
But the industry was not
Right.
good, and it wasn't right to take that call. So I was like, okay, let's do engineering, something related. I mean, because there was no chance I was going to be doing anything else.
Yeah.
I have a little love for physics, and so I was like, okay, let's be still. So I didn't take computers and everything, which I didn't like, and I was just thinking that, okay, maybe electrical, aircraft, maybe something matches.
Mhm.
Hence electrical
Yeah.
electronics. So that's how it started. So it was something that was in me, and there was a set plan that I was following over the course of time,
Mhm.
to put things in place. Just that I didn't say it out loud,
Right.
which I think wasn't required. But I just thought, I go step by step, and keep things in line. So that's what I did.
That's really interesting. You talk about how you sort of had a plan in place, because I think at that age a lot of us don't have quite the clarity. So I think that's really commendable, and it's a great segue to my next question actually, because I've read that towards the end of your engineering you had two jobs in hand, if I'm not wrong, and from there to convince your parents that maybe I want to get into aviation. So how was that like, and how did people around you, your family, take it? So what was that like?
So Pratap, this is back in, I think, my second year, where the industry was doing well.
Mhm.
Okay, so I was like, okay, this is it. 2 more years, by the time industry will be in space. So I did all my research. I was like, okay, I got it. I didn't tell anything at home. All going good. Fourth year, I mean, I was into so much of extracurriculars. I was also I was to do cultural fest coordinate. I was a coordinator there. For
Right.
sports, I was captain of the football team, so we were going here and there. A lot of things were going on, and very little of education in engineering. So my 4 months used to just go in 3 months extracurriculars and 1 month of studying. So I was always like that. So in my final year, I still remember we had finished off our sports fest. We won. We came runners up there, and then after that, we had won 2 trophies, and I had also won my club level tournament. So it was a good
Yeah.
season for me. And that's when I was
Good
like,
run,
okay,
yeah.
early that year, I think I'm talking about 2016. Yeah. So that time, I was had for interviews, just eligible, 60.2%, just making it to the couple of companies. sat there, got two offer letters. That was basically I mean, parents at home were worried, like, okay, what's next? So I was like, okay, look, I can get it, but this is not what. So I didn't like take 4 or 5 offer letters. I was like, okay, look, these are the two offer letters I got, and then the discussion started. I said, this is what I want to do. And then they're like, no, it doesn't make sense. Industry is not good. You got two offer letters and come on, you have an offer in hand where you need to join another 2-3 months, because I'm talking about April, May, my exams, and then June, July, you're almost into the company. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
so there was a lot of thing, and I was like, no, I need this, or else I had a little passion for business. So it was a thing that, okay, either this or business. So dad was like, no way, no business, that's not happening. So I said, okay, then it is this. Then I need to become pilot. So it all came down, and then he was like, then we. It took a while. I mean, I'm telling you in like 10,
Right,
15
yeah.
seconds, but it took few days and few weeks to get them understand how this thing is. And finally they agreed, and then I was looking to do my training in Mumbai, in a club called Bombay Flying Club. So we were working on that. They said, come after your exams in June. So officially June I was supposed to go there. And in the meanwhile, dad did some research, and he insisted I get a better training if I'm actually looking at it. So there was some support coming in. Obviously, support of other people
Okay, that's
who
nice.
knew that I wanted to do that from childhood and didn't know that it was just growing over this period of time. So they all supported, and so yeah, they agreed, and then I went with a clear mind for my final year exams, got them out of my way in May, and from June my procedure started. However, I got lucky, got a good flying school in US, where I could do it faster because I had already spent 4 years of engineering. So it was
Right.
ideal to get into the industry fast. So hence I moved out to US to get my training, and they are one of the top two in the world for aviation. So it was the best thing to do.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah,
that
that is
is
exactly true. That is what a fantastic story. The fact that you got support in the end from everyone, and then you went in the top two universities of the aviation organizations in the world. That is
That's right. That's right, Ashwin. I mean, the support was there, but it wasn't that easy. Like, if I can again reiterate, because I mean, I was going to be taking a loan, educational loan, to fund my training partially.
right. Yeah.
There was going to be a burden. We're talking about a big amount of money, so I had to convince them. And I had a very good thing that I can get two offer letters. I can still sort myself out if things go out of my way, and somehow clear it. But the fact was not that you're looking at a plan B, plan C, plan D. It was looking at plan A and executing it into your best of your abilities. So I mean, they had to go with my thing, and obviously the worries were there. But over a period of time, I proved them wrong.
And I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you could prove them wrong, and the fact that you made it. And I think
Absolutely.
this leads on to my next question. From all of that, going to the US, going to all the programs, taking a loan, and then having your first flight. All the firsts in the world is always so much special. But what was your first flight like?
Ashwin, this was so as per the rules, we used to have a good amount of ground training, which we call theory classes. So we had a good amount of theory classes, getting irritated, agitated, seeing planes fly out of the school. And we were talking about a school which had like 20, 30 planes, and everybody flying literally every day. And I was training in Florida, beautiful weather. So we had like good, I think, 7, 8 days of classes, and then we were finally allotted an instructor, and we had some clearances to be issued from the United States government for security reasons. So because it was, if you remember 9/11, ever since that things have been very strict with pilot training.
Oh,
So once I got the clearance, and our first flight was it's a tremendous feeling, like from the time you roll on the runway, and then you're at the time when you're just on the air, right? Just that first time, and then it's really amazing. And then for a fact, what my instructor did, what we flew to 1,000 feet, and he's like, "Go, you know what? Leave the controls, just enjoy the view." I was like, "Okay." So I was looking around because I was staying in my school was right in an island, so the views were amazing. So yeah, nothing short of a special moment, the first flight.
That is quite something. I mean, now on continuing with that, obviously the love for flying was there. Now also with something like flying, there comes a lot of pressure because especially flying a commercial airline. So how was that like? And just the pressure of, being in the air and having to handle such a big aircraft or something like that. So how do you deal with that, and how does that play on your mind?
Pratap, I would, by the time I stepped into the country to do my training, it was all a dream, still a dream, until I took off first flight, right? So every day was not easy. Trust me, it sometimes is portrayed, yeah, you can still train and, become a pilot. It's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult, like extremely difficult, but it's kind of cliche that, it's kind of, you can do it, right? So it isn't like, because there's a lot of theory and then application on ground. So it gets very tough. So it wasn't easy, to be honest, because we used to do so much of training of particular drills, maneuvers, things. Some days will be horrible flights. Your instructor is shouting at you, "What are you doing?" And on the other hand, you're getting paid. Your account is getting deducted with some big amount of money every hour that you fly, right? So it was not easy, to be honest, and it took a while to get into the whole thing and understand, because Pradip, I think you would relate with me when we study engineering. There are times when we flip pages, there's like a bunch that goes, right? So imagine I'm reading a book related to the flying, and I'm trying to, sometimes too hard, I'm like flipping two pages and I'm like, no. There are people behind it. So that is how, and apart from that, I mean, there's just the funny side of things, but apart from that, it's how much you want to know about it, because at the end of the day, that's what you want to do, right? So you'll go all extremes to know everything under the umbrella of that. So there was a lot of hard work, I would say, entire day. And my school was a very mixed culture. We had people from all over the world, from South America to UK, Europe. Like it was a cultural a mix of so many people. So it was amazing to and on that, people are wanting to go out, and we're talking about kids who are coming in after the school, like 18, and we are like a little bit mature people, so there's a lot of partying happening. But in the meantime, because my school, the course usually is around 12 months to 16 months, like on an average in the world. In India, it takes around 1.5, like on an average in the world, other side is 12 months. But in our school, it was like 7-8 months, because the flying is really good. So you're putting in double the effort. So you got to study, get your papers out. Like, so apart from that 1 hour or 2 hours of flying you do in a day, the rest you're trying to finish off, studying, you're doing your materials, tests. So there's a lot of things going on. So I would say responsibility is immense. That is something that keeps you on your toes. And just to give you guys a little bit better idea, even once we go into the airlines, there is constant checks. Every 6 months we have training. Let's say if you're not flying through it, then we again go back to our books. We go back to the simulators, do training, come back to the aircraft. So it's not easy that we just sit in the cockpit. There are so much of training, and this is not about a guy who comes in with, let's say, 300-400 hours of experience. This is about a guy who's having 5,000 hours, 10,000 hours. The procedure is same. So that is something that keeps you on your toes, and something that you also have to respect from the profession, that there are a lot of lives in risk. You're not playing with robots and things where you can going easy on that. So that's not happening.
I think that's where people get the profession of being a pilot very, very wrong, because they think after being a pilot, that is it, no more training, and it's just flying around the world. And to be honest, that's what even I thought until you told me that. I didn't know there were constant training, and that's going to be hard. But I read something which I thought was bizarre. For those of you listening, after I think he got his commercial license, they have this ritual where they go bald and have a party. I want to ask you, was it worth it? Was it worth it just shaving off your hair?
This is at the time we do a solo.
Oh, right,
solo is one of the first milestone of a pilot. Okay, so this is where you're on your own. There's no instructor next to you. So after we do like good 10 hours, this thing, the next few hours, like every day you practice landings. Landings are the most important things in flying. So and is the most critical phase of the flight. So we do training. So once the instructor feels and gets the confidence that yes, you can land the plane by yourself, he sends you on your solo. So for me it was a little bit of a pressure situation, where I had to, do a little bit more training. Like there were guys who were finishing off in 15 hours, 14 hours, 13 hours, 16 hours, like that. So on average, it was like 15 to 20 hours. I was touching 16 hours and I was like so stressed. Like, okay, my landings were not coming in well. It was so much of pressure. But so I think around 20th hour is where my instructor found me fit. Like, they keep doing landings after landing, like 6-7 landings, and then he feel like, okay, because sometimes we do have a bad days where we might not have a good landing. So it's very important that they decide when it is deemed fit. So like that, there was one fine day when I think around 7 a.m. was my flight, early flight. Usually we start off at 8, but he said come in at 7. We flew 7:30. Goes like, okay, he got out of the aircraft. He's like, okay, your aircraft, go now, go do 3 landings. We're supposed to do 3 landings. So I'm shivering and I'm like, okay. So, but then it is also a responsibility, but you're trained.
Yeah.
So I did all the 3 landings and then, then it's like all celebration. But the thing is, like every school has a different, routine that they do. So in our school, it was shaving the head, right? So I went back home. So we stay in a house of like 8 to 10 people with different rooms. So I went in and I slept, acting like as if nothing happened.
Right.
But my instructor played a big role there. He called upon my friends and said he did a solo. So this is like the whole day is gone. Guys have gone flying. They don't know what has happened. They come in at 6 p.m. with all the trimmers in the hand and like come up. And there you go. But you know what they do? They don't really shave your head off. They make runways out of your head. So they make designs. So they make designs. And the best thing is if you can't say no to it, because if you do, the next day the instructor won't fly you.
So they
this is what
they take it very seriously.
Yeah. So there was our school thing. So then they draw funny things, and then you're supposed to go to 7-Eleven, which is the most out of place. Go there, get pizzas, get them back, and then shave your entire. So the next time when you go to school, everybody knows that you've done your solo. So it was like that. But in other schools, some schools they put ice bucket full of water and ice water sometimes. Some places they sign on your shirts and various stories. But yeah, this was
as much as the ritual is bizarre, at least you have a beautiful tale to tell, I think. But shaving your hair off, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the first. I think it's been, and then plus, at that point of time, your confidence levels just skyrocketed, and now you can fly on your own. So nothing better than that.
Fair enough. That's true, guys. Now we have a segment where we ask either stereotypical questions or questions just about him. So yeah, Pratip, take it away, buddy.
Cool. So these are again going to be sort of light. And okay, so the thing is, always growing up, I've heard that pilots need to have amazing vision, like they need to have 20/20 vision. So as a kid, did you do things that would ensure that your eyes were like in good shape? Did you like shut off TV? Did you eat a lot of carrots? Did you do that kind of stuff?
Nice one, Pratap, but sadly none. It was just that the only thing about commercial flying, that this is a misconception between commercial flying and flying for the Air Force. For the Air Force, your vision has to be like perfect without correctable lenses. However, in commercial flying, you can have correctable lenses, which can be your spectacles. You can have your lenses. You can use, or you can do a correcting surgery. Either way, you have to correct it to a perfect vision, is what is said. So,
okay.
Not really.
Interesting. And now I've also read that a lot of pilots actually have a fear of heights. So is that something that you have in common? Do you have a fear of heights, or are you generally someone who doesn't mind heights?
I did have. I do have. I still have now. This is a very different thing for me. I feel comfortable when I'm on the aircraft and looking down, but I do not feel comfortable when I'm like in skyscrapers, things like that. I find a little bit different. I mean, it's a little bit. I wouldn't say that much, but yeah, a little. But when you're flying in the aircraft, it's a very different and it's a very sophisticated, thing to sit in. Right? There's so much thing that goes into it, so much, and it's expensive and expensive piece of metal. So there's so much things in that you feel good. Like, okay, this is. I'm so personally not really. But yeah, I do have other kind of phobias, which are. It's funny though because it's the same height, but yeah. At times,
is it because while flying you have a lot to do and a lot to think of? Is it because of that the height doesn't matter to you?
I think maybe, but even if I look down, I mean, it's not. I do not feel, I do not get the tremors or something like that, and in that, the fear is not there. But yeah, we hardly have time, to relax because we're talking about our small aircraft when we're training. There's not much of automation. Everything is like hand flown and everything is on hand. But current days, all automation. You set the cockpit and you're kind of ready. So, however, not much. I wouldn't say too much, but. Just that a little, I have the height fear when I go into something which is structured.
While flying, I'm sure you have this adrenaline rush that you get, which I'm pretty sure you can't explain it. But is there something other than football and other than flying where you get this adrenaline rush? And
Off lately, I've been starting, talking to people with regards to mental health. So, I mean, this was back in 2 years back. Yeah. So this is something new, a very different feeling that I get, and something which is very relatable to what I feel in football and while flying. So is when I help someone, uh, I talk, I listen, depends the scenario, and at the end, if the person can smile, or I can, I can feel that the person is feeling a little lighter from the voice. It's a different feeling. I mean, it feels that you've done something, and I completely related to what I feel while I'm flying or when I'm playing. But I just feel that with the current scenario and how things are going on, if you have done a little bit what you can do, and if that person is able to just think a little okay for the next few minutes also, you've done good, right? And let alone that person setting things right for good week, month. So off lately, that has kept me going. Talking to people, making their worries a little simple, making it a little lighter. I feel good. I feel really good.
I have one last question related to flying, and then I have a question about football. But what's the dream place you would want to fly over? Of course, there's a dream destination, but what's that one dream place that you'd want to fly to?
Fly to. I don't know if you've heard about the Northern Lights, the Aurora, the green Aurora.
Oh yeah.
So that's a
Aurora
dream
Borealis.
to
Yeah.
be piloting the aircraft as a first officer or a captain, and seeing it from the cockpit. So that's been my bucket list.
That'd be beautiful.
So, but
That would be pretty amazing.
yeah, that for that it'll be either up north or up down south. So let's see.
Yeah.
Because Pratip and I keep talking about it, and it's in our bucket list to just stand and see. But to see it while flying, man, that'll be some experience. One question to you about football before we again ask you about aviation programs. Which football player, if you could replace, if you had to replace a football player, who would that be? And you'll be replacing the player as it is. So you'll be in the team, have the same teammates, the money, the fame, and everything. So one football team and one football player.
One football team. Football team would be Manchester United. Childhood Manchester United diehard fan. So that will be Manchester United. Player. In terms of my position that I play as a defender, I would say Vidic
All right.
from Manchester United. I mean, in terms of positional play, is where I look up to. But in terms of my all-time favorite player, Zinedine Zidane, all-time favorite.
That's
So,
a great choice.
but yeah, I'm definitely I can't replace him at midfield, so I think I'll go with
Yeah. I was not going to ask you this, but because you said Manchester United, how was it when you saw Chelsea celebrate and have fun? How
to be honest, Ashwin, I've gotten used to two teams winning here and there. All right, but apart from that, I mean, I was happy, to see that whole culture coming back, because I've seen from back in 2004, 2003, back in those days, things were different. From that time, I've been following. So, as a diehard fan,
Wow.
it's only good to see your club coming back. And if you don't support them now, when will you? So, right. So that's been the thing for the last 4 or 5 years. So I hope that trophyless drought will end next year, hopefully.
I feel like no, I'm not going to say. I just feel like the Manchester United fans now are like RCB fans. The difference is United have been successful for a lot of years, but now I feel like it's just that.
It's become that. Agreed.
Now, a little bit about you being a CPL ground instructor. So, can you tell us a little bit about it and how you became one? So, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Because also you said that you started speaking to a lot of people, and we read that you had troubles while you were quite anxious before becoming an instructor. So how did you overcome that, and how was it like to become a CPL instructor?
So this is again after I completed my CPL in US. Since I did everything in the requisite time, I was offered a chance to be an instructor there. However, the market here was more something that I wanted to do. I wasn't that keen on becoming an instructor. I wanted to fly for airlines. Hence, I came back and started my conversion process, which I knew was going to take a lot of time. So I after coming back, I did get 2-3 opportunities after I completed papers. So we have some theory exams to complete, 3 to 4 papers. So I was completing them, and then these are exams which happen once every 3 months. So if you don't get through, you have to wait for 3 months. So it used to get very difficult mentally, push yourself for your exams. However, over the period of time, I started, studying so much because the end goal was still quite distant, right? In terms of, getting into the airline and everything, you need to know a lot of things. So kept reading, kept studying. So I felt good. I felt more confident. But then I still started getting offers, which I was not, because I never thought I would. I'm not a patient guy to, sit and teach. So that's never been in me. So I kind of, thought otherwise most of the times. Until once when I did get an opportunity 2 years back, it was one of my instructor who suggested, just try once, just go give a demo once. So I was like, okay, fine, let me go speak. And then they were very happy to have me. And then the good thing was I had experienced what training was, because I didn't go for any coaching. I studied by myself. It was quite tough. Indian papers are quite tough compared to other countries. So it took me a while to get the theory papers, but I've gone through it from scratch. So I knew what is required, and I had seen few academies how they teach. So I literally knew what to do. So hence and my academy gave me the leverage to frame the program as I wanted, because they were just starting off fresh, so I framed my own program. I made my own PPTs, and I started teaching, and I started enjoying it. And it was something that I'd already known, and it was helping. And by the time I was already talking to people, so it was kind of connecting two things. Here in this case was more about aviation related, where I was trying to give guidance, in between classes as to what you need to do, what you need, not what you shouldn't do, in order to cut down your time and things like that. So the journey was good. So there were less students, but I enjoyed. And then luckily 1 or 2 students I got online. So this is back in those days I started teaching in Zoom. So now it's become a trend. So back then I used to teach in Zoom, and so I was more on that. And that is, so then by the end of that first batch in 6 months, I had made PPTs for all the subjects as to how I wanted. And that was giving results to my students. So that was good because I knew what the exams wanted and how you need to be ready for the industry. So overall, I would say it needed that start, to take it up, and the challenge to, accept it and try, and which I was denying for the past few years. And then when I took it up, it felt like it was something that I should be doing for a long time to come, which I still do now. So I think it was a good call. Late one, but nevertheless, fine.
Yeah, nevertheless, you did it and you're doing it, which is great. I think this is a good segue to my next question related to the pandemic and the lockdown that's been going on. You also spoke about mental health, and that's something important to the both of us. How has it been in the last 1.5 years or 2, if I'm not wrong now, that during this pandemic, how was it that you keep yourself motivated? Because I'm sure you still need to study a lot, but you have your license, but you're not flying as much. So how are you mentally motivating yourself every day to just go about the day and get through the day, because the time will come?
Pratap, this is Pratap and Ashwin. Sorry, this is something which I feel is very important in our industry. Things are not easy as they look like. People just get waved away by the CPL, and they're like, okay, airline is there. Okay, it's not easy because airliners have aircraft which are crores of value. Okay, you need to first match that standard. You need to show the proficiency. So it wasn't easy. And let's be frank, our industry was doing very well in India. So back in before COVID time, we were doing so well that there was so many vacancies coming out. We were like, it was all for us literally. And then just before that, Jet shut down, Jet Airways, and then there was a little bit. Okay, then we were expecting a delay of another 4-5 months because their pilots were moving into other airlines until vacancies come for freshers. But then COVID came in and just kept everything stagnant. But the good part of things is, Ashwin, compared to the other countries, our country still is okay, as in they didn't lay off pilots that much.
Right.
It was just leave without pay, which was still good because they're all on roll. The only reason being that the expansion of the industry is going to happen in a big way. There are a hell number of aircrafts coming in the next few years, and we are supposedly going to go second in the world for domestic travel. We're third now after China, US. So we will go move up because of the way we are expanding. So there is going to be a dearth of pilots. Just that it's about the time we need to wait. So I mean, I had already overcome a lot of things. So for me, I mean, the first 2 years were difficult. After I came back, I was talking about 17, 18, 19, and 19 is when I started working. So it was tough. I mean, it's now 3, 4 years that I've finished my training and got my Indian license, and it's not easy. I mean, yes, there is a lot of things that go on to your head. You tend to get diverted. You tend to get demotivated, but at the end of the day the goal is stagnant. Stays there, and it's constant that you need to keep working for it. Because I have instructors with me who have stayed patient for good 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, doing whatever they can just to be in the industry. So that side of things I've seen, and I look at me and I'm like, okay, look, you're just a beginner. Okay, you just done this much, right? So that just keeps me motivated. I'm like, okay, because you guys have to know one thing, that most of them who do it and come back, because of the whole scenario like this, just so tough, and sometimes you don't get vacancies, and then there's so much finances allowed that they move on to another industry, and then this is gone.
Oh,
There are many who do that, many, right? And I know so many people who just kind of sit at home and get so demotivated, not able to teach, or take up anything in the aviation. So it's quite a task. So most of them, what they do, they become flight instructors, teach students, get their hours up. So it depends, but you have to also look at your opportunities, right?
right.
At the end of the day, I would just say, got to be focused on what you want to do. If you do not have the clarity after putting in that much effort, because something that is not under your control is when it has to happen. But what is in your control, I believe, is your effort, your hard work, your persistence, your patience, and all of that towards that. How focused are you on towards your goal? If you're going to keep getting carried away with people saying things at you, because they're going to still talk, irrespective, they're going to talk. It just doesn't matter. And irrespective of what people say, what people think about you, what you are going to do, what you want.
Yeah.
So that's very important. I believe that the self belief on you, because there might be days when even people around you, your near ones, be it your family, might not think that, okay, how long is it taking? Because for us it's like that. Questions are like, how much and when are you getting, things like these, okay, which are quite demotivating. But then what is in store, because when you get in, that's it.
Right.
Okay, everything else is story.
True.
Behind you. It's okay. I mean it happens, because there are people who are lucky enough to start flying from 20, and there are people who are captains in 23, 24, and on the other hand there are people who are starting their flight training at 30. So either way, you got to be grateful for just at least being able to do it, because not everyone are able to afford it. It's quite expensive, and plus it's such a profession which is not looked at, like at least in our country. You guys know, when you're born itself, you know what you're going to do, from that mentality. So it's quite difficult that way, but it's very important, guys, for at least in our industry to stay focused. And so what everybody suggests is to be around in the industry, do something. So that's when I feel the teaching was a blessing, because I'm still ready for my interviews anytime they call me. I'm ready because I'm still teaching, I'm still current.
Correct.
With regards to flying, I can't really do anything because of the industry. Whenever the vacancies come up, so whatever is in your control, if you're not doing, then don't expect things to happen. Whatever is in your control, you can do better. Then you will see your results in the course of time. So that's what I believe in. Just look at what you have in your plate, right? And a prime example that I always look up to, just adding to, is because it's a role model that I look up to, is Sunil Chetri.
Right.
So I met him since we used to play for Bangalore FC. I've seen a lot of matches of Bangalore FC. I go meet him a lot. We used to have these conversations with fans, right? So because I've been there from the first day, from the club started, and with all the fan culture and everything. So I've interacted with him a lot. So he used to say these things where how you need to be down to earth, and in spite of all the laurels. So these are guys who set the tone for you. Like, okay, you still haven't done much. Okay, just put your head down, focus, keep going, keep going. There's still everything is a long way to go. So I think these are the things that just keep me on track. And I also look back at all my naysayers and all people who said this is not right, this is blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So it's about not about proving them right wrong, but it's just about showing that you shouldn't be putting down or demotivating anybody. Just to give you an example, before I went from flight training, I spoke to around 40-50 pilots, and you won't believe the negative thoughts I got of them saying that don't take it up. This is like
Really?
close to 40 to 45 pilots told me not to take it up. Can you believe? And I would be like this on the phone, like, okay, sir, thank you. And so there's just one or two pilots. There's one pilot who I still remember who answered to my messenger message back then, Facebook, saying that you know what, just hold your ship when things are bad, you'll be fine. Go ahead and do it, plan it well. So I just took those positive things. So I'm more about positivity, and for me, it's been a while. It's taken me those days. I've learned from my lows, and yeah, I've adapted to it. And then, but there will be days when there are lows, but you can't really do much. You're a human after all. But the goal is that I'm just moving towards it.
I think from the fact that Sunil Chetri making the route and tone for you, I think you've done that for us. In a field that is so tough, to stay motivated is quite difficult, and the fact that you can do it is something inspiring. And I know we have taken a lot of your time, and we have to ask you this. I have to ask you this. One last question. If I don't know if you follow IPL, but if you do follow IPL, which
I
team?
don't know what.
Okay, cool. So which team do you support?
Bangalore boy.
Yeah.
So I'll go with just because hardcore Bangalore.
Yeah, I figured that. That's also I wanted to ask you. I was quite curious if you do follow RCB, but sure. Thank you so much for joining in. I know it's almost been an hour, but it's been a pleasure, man. The things you have spoken about, even if it's strictly aviation, I think you can learn a lot from it and apply it in different fields. Guys,
Absolutely.
if you've learned something and if you have to say something, comment down below. Sure. Thank you so much for joining in again. It was
Actually, do you mind? I just want to leave one sentence for
yeah, go on. Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
So I mean, I would just say to all of you guys, just be focused, guys, and don't worry about what you need to do, and don't get confused. I know there will be 101 people talking 101 things. Follow what your heart says, and I think you will get that connect. If not now, maybe over the course of time, maybe after 25, but be steadfast to it. Okay. Yes, good. Have your plan B's, plan C's, but make your plan A work. That's about you, right? I mean, just be focused. Try to stay away from all the negativities. Positivity key. So try to keep those kind of people around you. And just to let you guys know, just have a look out for the people around you. Just listen. Just be a listening person. If you can speak to, be a person who you can guide. There are small things in life which you can't really do anything about. But a small thing of maybe that 1 minute of yours would have saved someone's life, would have set someone back on track. So apart from all the profession and everything, we'll all be successful one day, don't worry, in our own ways. But however, I think I just have to with this all fast-paced world, guys, I think you guys will understand what I'm trying to say, that it's so easy to forget about people around you. So I think have an eye on them, and just be passionate, love what you do, and results will just follow. It's just about giving back, which I started doing that through my channel as well. Started giving back information because I wasn't getting that guidance when I did. So I know everything isn't for money, but the fact that you do it from your heart will pay someday. And it's nothing good like seeing people are taking your advice, doing well, and doing well. And I know people who have taken advice and are doing way better. It's okay. That's how life is. And if you're doing what good you can, things will definitely come back. and when it comes back, be ready to accept it with open hearts.
I think that's a beautiful way to end this podcast. I don't think I can say anything to that because it won't be worth it. I think, oh, what a beautiful, that was really beautiful, guys. We'll link down his channel, his Instagram page on the description below, so please go check that out. You know the man, you listen to the man. Nothing could be better, honestly. Like, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you for listening to us. Peace.
Yeah, please. Yo, thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Just Baatein. We hope you enjoyed it and that it left you inspired. Thanks for all your support, and maybe you could support us just a little more by maybe going to our Instagram and Twitter and giving us a follow there. And also you can listen to us on all podcasting platforms, right from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to Google Podcasts. Cheers.